So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Arphodite? So let's start the series. In front of a horde of white creatures with plant-like features and big, shining white eyes, a 16-year-old boy with blonde hair was visible. There was a massive beast with 10 enormous, waving tails behind these white plant zombies. A guy by the name of Uchiha Madara stood atop this beast, and next to him was the man responsible for a whole war. In addition to his long, flowing golden hair, this youngster had a single bang that fell softly across his face. He had bright blue eyes that appeared to swirl into royal purple or deep red. Despite his sharp and slender features, he had an alluring expression. 3 whisker markings sat on either side of his face. The boy was wearing a long-sleeved crimson shirt with an uzumaki swirl on the collar that was open at the torso. He was wearing red arm guards that covered his forearms and extended up to his upper biceps, as well as black slacks with a black cloth draped from halfway up his torso to his legs. A white rope belt was wound in a bow around his waist. He held a sword in his right hand that appeared to have been fashioned from several shark scales. The hilt of the sword even featured a mouth. A long blade that resembled a needle, in fact, it had thread at the end, was in his left hand. This boy had a black fabric headband on his forehead. A peculiar emblem was engraved onto the metal. It appeared to be the ideal combination of a crescent moon and the sun. This boy is Namake's Uzumaki Naruto, the final member of the allied shinobi forces and a former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Everyone else was too hurt or had fallen to assist him in his battle. The Jubi had even overthrown his brother, Uchiha Sasuke. It was now his responsibility to defeat Obito and Madara in addition to freeing the tailed beast. He cracked his neck and stated, "This ends now. I will no longer tolerate any bloodshed. No more of my comrades and friends will fall today. I'll end this stupid war with my own 2 hands and the blood flowing through my veins." Then, when he hurled the Nuabari, Naruto saw the needle-like sword cut through the innumerable white zetsu. The white zetsu was easily fried as he appeared on the other side and pushed some lightning chakra into the blade. He split a significant number of zetsu in 2 with his swinging samahata. After drawing the needle sword, he ran toward Obito's direction. Obito stood calmly, not seeing Naruto as a threat. This would turn out to be a deadly error. Naruto literally ripped Obito in half vertically as he raised up and pushed Samahata into his chest. Naruto threw both of his blades into the air, turned to face the stunned Madara, and performed hand signals that the allied shinobi troops were accustomed to. "Shiki Fuin," he exclaimed as he finished them. Madara's eyes widen as it notices the Shinigami appear, and Naruto's face is filled with hunger. Without saying a word, Naruto saw the Shinigami reach through his soul and seize Madara's and the Jubi's souls. "You did well, young one. You have truly brought everlasting peace to these lands, but I'm afraid your work is far from done. It seems like your mother's dimension needs your help now. Do not worry about the Zetsu army, as they will be taken care of by the allied shinobi forces. Goodbye, Namake's Uzumaki Naruto," the Shinigami said, licking its lips initially as it dragged its hands back through Naruto. With his eyes closed, Naruto disappeared in a whirlpool of shadows, never to be heard as his name screamed loudly. Naruto opened his eyes, blinked, and discovered that he was sitting in a classroom, listening to a guy discuss gods he was unaware of. He frowned as he glanced around and saw all of the 12-year-olds nearby. It did not look well for him. With a raised hand, he said, "May I use the restroom?" After blushing a little, the teacher turned to face him and responded, "Why yes, you may, Mr. Namake's." He rose from his seat and made his way to the restroom. He frowned as soon as he entered and saw his 12-year-old self gazing at himself in the mirror. A few things had changed from when he was 12 years old. First of all, He had royal purple eyes with a single spherical pupil surrounded by 3 rings. His hair appeared to curve around his face and was less spiky. He was also a battle-hardened warrior who had witnessed his share of war and death. Then he blinked, hearing in his mind a very familiar laugh. "Stop laughing, Kurama, before I transform you into your child form," he muttered in his mind without giving it any thought. The enormous fox's laughter ended abruptly, but 11 more quickly filled his head. "Kurama, why are there 11 more voices in my head?" he inquired, blinking at this. Kurama was moaning, "Brat, you sealed the Jubi inside of yourself along with Madara. You tell me why there are 11 more voices in my head." Naruto was face-palming. "Oh great, first I'm turned into a bloody 12-year-old, and then I get 11 new voices in my head, as if Kurama wasn't enough of a headache as it is." Snorting, Kurama remarked, "Yeah, well, you're no walk in the park either, brat. Keep talking trash, fox, and I'll turn you into a plushie," Naruto replied, his eyebrows twitching. When Kurama heard this, he prudently closed his mouth. With a sigh, Naruto left the restroom, observing the numerous flushes he caused on the women's faces as he passed. He made the decision to disregard this and return to class. After a few months, Naruto would find himself in a dull class once more when he heard Madara say, "Kid, someone's trying to mess with your mind. I sense a powerful illusion trying to take over you." To shatter any illusions around him, Naruto merely sent a tiny amount of his chakra into his body upon hearing this. His gaze suddenly broadened as he noticed his new teacher, a shriveled-up elderly woman with glowing eyes and leathery skin. "What in Jubi's name is that?" he thought as he sat up straight in his chair. When Bijou responded, "Naro-chan, what have I told you about invoking my name like it's some kind of curse?" in a maternal voice, he blinked. "Can we do this later? I'm kind of creeped out by whatever the hell that thing is," Naruto pondered, his eyebrows twitching. Jubi gasped. "Fine, but prepare for the longest lecture in history. As for what that thing is, well, my guess is that it's a Fury, one of Hades' torturers." With a blink, Naruto said, "So all of that stuff Mr. Brunner was talking about is true?" With a laugh, Kurama remarked, "Sure, brat, now shut up and pay attention, the old hag is about to call on you." Mrs. Dodds questioned, "Mr. Namikaze, what is 40 times 120, as she turned to face him. As he considered transforming Kurama into a stuffed fox, Naruto said the words 800. Blinking, Mrs. Dodds answered, "Correct." After that, she returned to lecturing in silence, furious that she had failed to notice Naruto's lack of focus. When Matatabi said, "It looks like someone's teacher has it bad for him," Naruto rolled his eyes and returned to resting on his palm. Then, Naruto yelled in his head, "Shut it, Matatabi, before I make you and Shikaku mate." He heard 2 whimpers and grinned. A few days later, Naruto would be seated next to the girl he had the biggest crush on, disregarding the fact that she was throwing peanut butter sandwiches at Grover Underwood, while listening to his MP3 player on his way to a museum with his class. The youngster needed to advocate for himself without Naruto or that moron Percy Jackson interfering, not because they weren't pals. Despite his friendship with Grover, Naruto was intolerant of Percy. Upon reaching the museum, Mr. Brunner guided the group through the historical hall. Naruto stepped away from the group after noticing something that caused his eyes to widen. It was a statue located in the museum's Japanese department. It was a bloody statue of him looking down at Jubi while holding both of his lost swords in each hand. In fact, his clothing was correct, as was the candy hoard he concealed in the upper portion of his shirt. As Naruto touched the monument, he blinked in response to Mr. Brunner's statement, of the statue of the hero. With a smile on his face, he turned to see Brunner roll in. "The hero?" Naruto said, glancing at the man. Brunner, nodding with a faint smile on his face, said, "This statue is dedicated to the hero of the world." It is said he was born of two powerful warriors and cursed on that same night with the heavy burden of a demon. It also said that he carried this burden, even becoming friends with it, all the way to his final battle. The beast depicted in the statue is supposed to be the fused version of his demon along with 8 others. It is said he battled the great beast for 9 days and 9 nights, until finally with one last mighty swing he forced the beast inside of his sword. Samahata, I believe its name is. Both of his swords were lost in time, but it's rumored that Samahata lies at the bottom of the ocean near the prison of the legendary Kraken. The Nuwabari is said to have been used by Hera to stitch up her mini dresses. His headband is said to be carried around by Artemis, as a form of honoring one of the few men she'll ever respect. His clothes though were truly lost in time and none have ever seen them again. Missing Naruto's stunned expression, Mr. Brunner then rolled himself back out of the room. Oh bloody hell! How in the hell did I become a legend over here when all of this happened in a different dimension, he muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose and shaking his head. Madara sighed and stated it does not matter. What does is that the mortals worship you and your heroic deeds have forever been immortalized. Naruto sighed and went outside, blinking to see the moron wearing the most perplexed expression on his face and what appeared to be a blonde woman eating lunch with the class. With a shrug, he approached Nancy, who began to fall in love with him right away. After a few more months, Naruto was getting ready for summer vacation and packing. He had everything planned out. He would exercise his new bijou abilities, train his talents, explore a little, and possibly even slaughter some monsters. Then, because Samahata truly misses his weapons, go find him. Until he encountered the gods or whatever, Nuwabari would have to wait a little while longer. He saw Grover trembling as he spoke to Percy outside the school and approached him, saying, "Okay, Grover, my man. I'm going to be heading out. Got things to do, places to be, deeds to conquer. You know the usual." "Okay, Naruto, stay safe and if you even need some help just go the address on the card," Grover replied, grinning as he turned to face Naruto and shook the boy's hand. With a smile, Naruto responded, "Will do, man." After that, he turned to face Percy and remarked, "Idiot, do try and stay safe this summer," with a detached expression. When Percy heard this, he was tempted to give Naruto the bird, but he chose to turn away. When Naruto saw this, he chose to call a cab. He said, 102, East Broadway Street please, and got inside. Naruto was driven to his apartment by the cabbie who nodded. After paying the man, Naruto entered his house and became immediately vigilant. The big chakra signatures in his house are the cause of this. He opened his door and squinted when he saw how many women were rifling through his house. Grover appeared to have seen a ghost and ran into his house just as he was ready to kill, his eyes narrowing even more. Ignoring the women, Naruto turned to face Grover, who was at last displaying his true form. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, "Let me guess the idiot did something stupid and now you're here to get me help track him down." He could feel the terror slipping off the satyr. Yes, by the gods, he saw the fates cutting his string. "Do you know what this means?" exclaimed Grover, panting. "Yes," murmured Naruto, stroking his hair, "this means that the next time I see the Shinigami, I'm ramming a full-powered raisin shuriken down his throat." At this, Grover blinked. Ignoring this, Naruto opened his eyelids to see his blood-red eyes and now-slitted pupils. Naruto was sniffing the air and remarked, "The idiot and some ladies smelling like candy are near the ocean about 16 miles to the east. For some reason I also smell bull and metal." With horrified eyes, Naruto exclaimed, "Oh dear sweet ramen. The Minotaur is following the idiot." Grover's skin literally turned pale as he heard this. Then, with a sailor-like curse, Naruto exclaimed, "I have the save the idiot without Samahataheim or Nuwabari-chan. Damn." He then strode past the women, unlocked his closet, and rummaged through the wide variety of clothing he discovered. He closed the closet doors after finding what he was looking for. Somehow, Grover only now saw that the women were swooning. At that moment, the closet door opened, and Naruto emerged dressed as a shinobi. Of course, without his headgear. He nodded and checked his pouch, counting all of his throwing weapons, including shuriken, Hiroshin kunai, and normal kunai. Then he took a cherry lollipop out of his candy pouch and put it in his mouth. "Come on, Goatman, I have a bull to kill and you have an idiot to save," he stated gravely. He turned to face the astonished women, squinted, and snarled, "I'll deal with you after I get back." "Hiroshin no jutsu," he exclaimed as he approached Grover. Then he vanished in a blaze of crimson light. When Grover raced to the closest bush and threw up, Naruto, who was in the cottage where Percy and his mother were staying, chuckled. Then, with a sigh, Naruto looked up and felt the massive storm raging all around him. Grover loudly knocked on the door as he regained consciousness. Naruto turned around and began looking for the large bull, but his sense of smell was being affected by the rain. Grover then snatched him up and loaded him into the car with the idiot and his quite adorable mother. He was preoccupied with the bull that was now pursuing the automobile and was not paying attention to the talk inside. After then, the car was assaulted by the bull, causing it to crash into a ditch. He exited the vehicle and led the idiot's mother to the tree at the top of the hill. "Ever the fighter," Naruto declared, "Why, you stupid son of a cow. I'm going to turn you into a triple cheeseburger and use your horns as toothpicks." At this, the Minotaur roared and charged straight at him. Cocking his fist back, Naruto smirked as he dashed in the direction of the Bullman hybrid. "Superman punch," he exclaimed as he leaped a little in the air and charged Earth Chakra into his fist. The bull was knocked back by that hit, and Naruto was shaking his fist and swearing because he hadn't used enough Earth Chakra. Then he heard a cry of rage and glanced up to see the Minotaur, murder in its eyes. "What's the matter, dinner? Did I tenderize you too early?" asked Naruto upon seeing this. Another Superman punch, this one with more even Earth Chakra interwoven into it, struck the Minotaur as it rushed towards Naruto. In an attempt to put an end to this, Naruto struck the ground forcefully, sending a small shockwave around him. He started to run while raising his right hand. He was practically in the air after pushing a small wind chakra out of his feet. He said, "Eat this, you triple cheeseburger in the making." Explosion release, Superman punch. A huge explosion rocked the ground as the punch hit. After the smoke cleared, Naruto was visible with a thick scowl on his face and a pair of horns in his hands. With a glance up at Grover, he remarked, "You owe me one, goat boy." Then he collapsed forward, his face hitting the velvety ground. Sally, Grover, and Percy were immediately following him. Grover, Percy, and Sally were scooped up by Chiron, who shook his head, and taken to the camp. He gave the order for Naruto to be picked up and taken to the camp. Naruto would wake up the following day and immediately sit up. He blinked without seeing his room, pushing the sleep from his eyes. He moaned as he turned and saw a female with gray eyes and blonde hair watching the goat boy and stupid. He got out of bed and stretched his body before leaving the room, disregarding the blonde girl's pleadings for him to wait. He frowned as he walked around the camp, taking in every cabin. He then narrowed his eyes when he noticed a bunch of unattractive-looking girls approaching him. The tallest of the ladies smirked cockily as she remarked, "You're one of the new kids that arrived. It's time for your initiation." Sighing, Naruto stated, "Begone pest, I don't have time for your foolish games, and if you try me I will make you regret it." When the girls heard this, they frowned and made the decision to discipline him. Naruto made a very poor decision by grabbing the first girl's hands and crushing them. He then kicked the second girl in the stomach, causing her to go to her knees, curl up, and faint. He just flicked the final girl with his finger, knocking her unconscious. Then, oblivious to the wide-eyed stares from everyone, Naruto turned to go. When Naruto came upon a forest, he would go inside and take a seat in a clearing. Unaware that he had entered sage mode, he closed his eyes and began to concentrate. Every natural being knew, even if he didn't. He began to be surrounded by animals, including fox kits that sat in his lap. Around him, dryads and wood nymphs were dancing. Now he was not looking, but some satyrs were bending low to him. He was making Demeter's children swoon. As Chiron entered the clearing, he was astounded by how effortlessly nature moved through and around Naruto. Like he was part of it. At last, he smelled a demigod emanating from Naruto, dispelling his belief that Naruto was a sentient beast. However, for some reason, Naruto also exuded the scent of a formidable beast. Naruto opened his right eye, blinked, and took in his surroundings. He peered down to see some fox kits yipping joyfully at him just as the eye was ready to solidify. He opened both eyes and scooped up one of the kits, grinning. He nuzzled it to his face and ignored the hearts that appeared in the eyes of every woman. He shooed the kits back to their moms, halting his nuzzling and gradually stepping out of his sage role. He then turned to Brunner and stated, "Alright Chiron, I'm gonna make a guess that the gods and all of that are true and that this camp is a safe haven for demigods. The idiot is a demigod and the reason why Grover was at Yancey, along why you transferred in right around the middle of the year." "Correct, but how did you know?" Chiron asked, blinking. Snorting, Naruto remarked, "Illusions don't work on me and your mist is nothing compared to the mighty eyes of Uchiha. Will you stay in the camp?" Chiron inquired, nodding in response. "According to Naruto, who was yawning, I'll stay here until Friday, then I'm back on the move." "Alright, then once Percy wakes up, everything will be explained," Chiron replied, nodding. "Sure you do that. Until then I'm gonna be working on some things," stated Naruto, getting to his feet. Since he was going to get Samahata-chan back in one way or another, he then got up and raced to the closest water source, intending to change into Isabu to get acclimated to the water. With his headband, he could wait till he met Artemis since he was certain that she would eventually meet him. Without her and Nuwabari, he felt somewhat naked. 2 days later, Naruto was meditating once more, but this time he was doing it in the center of the lake, using the water's natural energy and Isabu's demonic chakra. He was aware that this was causing some evil entities to materialize and churning the water beneath him. When he heard his name called, he opened his right eye and blinked, glaring at Annabeth Chase with a kind of intimidating intensity. "How may I help you, Annabeth-chan?" he inquired, stepping out of his demi-sage mode and approaching the coastline. With her hands on her hips, Annabeth spoke the words, "You never answered my question." Blinking, Naruto remarked, "I'm sorry, I was distracted by your outstanding beauty and didn't even hear your question. Please do me a favor and remind me of it." With a flush, Annabeth remarked, "I asked you if you wanted to be on my team for the capture the flag came tomorrow." "Depends, is idiot working with you?" said Naruto upon hearing this. "Yes," Annabeth answered, blinking, "Percy is going to be on my team." Naruto replied, "Then no, because I don't work with idiots and every time I see him Kurama screams at me to let him eat the idiot." Annabeth caught his hand and swung him around just as he was going to make his way back to the center of the lake. He blinked as she said, "You won't be working with him, you'll be working with me." Just as Naruto was about to reject her request, she used the infamous puppy eye jutsu. As he and all the other voices in his thoughts asked, "Who in the hell invented that cursed jutsu?" his eyebrow began to twitch. "Fine," Naruto sighed, "but you owe me big time for this." With a smile, Annabeth answered, "Good. Why do I get the feeling I'm gonna regret this?" he muttered as he made his way back to the center of the lake. Ignoring the giggling voices in his thoughts, he sat down on the water and resumed his workout, turning the lake into a whirlpool while ignoring the giggling water sprites swimming around him. The Capture the Flag game took place tonight, and to be honest, Naruto was eager to finish it so he could begin his global tour. He had already decided to start with Florida and then go with his gut. Keep the armor, I'm a trained warrior with no need for heavy clunky armor. Plus, if I wanted to, I could make my own armor, he replied, dismissing the armor that was placed in front of him. Stop complaining, Naruto, and just put the armor on, Annabeth commanded, and he moaned. He said, Susanoo, while closing his eyes. When Naruto's solid blue armor materialized, everyone moved back or gasped. He even developed an Oni mask on the right side of his face. Like I said, I don't need that armor. I have my own armor. He replied, glancing at the startled Annabeth. Now if you excuse me, I'm going to return to my thoughts until the game begins. He therefore failed to notice the awe in the forger's cabin and the jealousy in Luke's eyes. While Annabeth was staring at Naruto, she was filled with awe. Naruto was standing next to Annabeth as the game finally started. Annabeth remarked, "All right, Naruto. Since you're the most talented out of all of us, I want you to capture the flag. Try to do so without terribly injuring many people." Yawning, Naruto remarked, "Yeah, whatever, let's just get this over with already." When Naruto responded in a bored manner, Annabeth had to fight the impulse to groan. The game was subsequently declared to have begun when the horn blew. After deciding to take flight after realizing this, Naruto used Komiai's chakra to grow large wings and soar through the air. Using hand signals, he said, creation of all things, Kekai beetles, death butterflies, centipedes, giant millipedes, black wasp, hellfire moths. Everyone's eyes were startled as they noticed all the various insects surrounding him when a massive puff of smoke dispersed. Then Naruto declared, "All right, it's time for the show." Almost immediately, the insects dispersed from their spot, and people were seen falling to their faces, being carried away by butterflies, being buried up to their necks by centipedes, fleeing from millipedes, getting stung by wasps, or rolling around on the ground while attempting to extinguish blue flames. When Naruto noticed the flag was unattended, he swooped down at Mach speed and grabbed it. Naruto was floating over to Ares' side. He rolled his eyes as he flew over to the Athena side and saw Percy puffing after Clarice and her sisters had booted him. He noticed that Annabeth was looking at him in awe and that her face was slightly flushed. He wondered why, but then he recalled that he had ripped off his top entirely to develop his wings, and Sasuke had taught him how difficult it was to sew it back together. You could see his entire upper body, including what was likely his tattooed right arm. He had all of his war tattoos on this arm. The victory horn blew as he fell to the ground and stabbed the flag into the ground. As soon as he stood up, Naruto frowned and smelled something he shouldn't have. He looked at the fool, rolled his eyes, and raised them a little. Everyone startled as they followed his gaze. There was an aqua sea trident emblem above Percy's head. This is what Naruto heard Annabeth say, "Oh, by the gods." After then, someone bowed and uttered the words, "All hail Percy Jackson, son of Poseidon, god of the seas and earthquakes." Then everyone bowed to Naruto. "Why aren't you bowing?" Annabeth demanded, glaring at him. Naruto grumbled, "Because even if the god of seas is his daddy, he's still an idiot of the highest degree, and I don't give a satyr's furry ass if his dad's one of the big three. Waterboy here couldn't last 5 seconds in my world. Hell, none of you could, not even Chiron, the mighty trainer of heroes." With his gaze shifting to the hellhound that everyone was too preoccupied to notice, Naruto threw a kunai and said the words "case in point." Everyone, including the hound, blinked when the kunai struck directly next to it. When Annabeth finally got a clear view of the kunai, she felt her eyes almost explode when she saw the 3 blades and the unique seal engraved on it. When Naruto disappeared in a burst of crimson light, she turned to face him and gasped. With a screaming ball in his fist, Naruto appeared before the Hellhound and exclaimed, "Bad dog. Wind style, Rasengan." The dog lifted into the air and howled in agony as the Rasengan slammed into it. When he saw this, Naruto grabbed the Hiraishin kunai and threw it into the air. "Kunai Shadow Clone Jutsu," he exclaimed, clapping his hands together. Then, the 1 kunai became 100 kunai. The statement, "It's over." Uzumaki's secret technique, Cradle of the Flying Lightning God Jutsu, was made by Naruto while holding a red Rikiri in one hand and a black Chidori in the other. Then, with lightning behind him, he vanished in a flash of crimson light. As he sped around the kunai, Naruto connected the chakra threads of the Rikiri and the Chidori through its handles, thus forming a cradle in which the Hellhound was imprisoned. With black and crimson lightning encircling the Hellhound on all sides, he leaped back, let the cradle fall, and crossed his arms. Lifting his right palm to the heavens with a sly smile, Naruto remarked, "This one's for you, Sasuke team." He exclaimed, "Obliterate all within my path." Koro Kirin, while closing his eyes and launching a portion of Kurama's chakra into the air. People swear they heard the Hellhound whimper in terror as there was a tremendous roar. A dragon as black as the night, with vile yellow eyes, was coiling high above Annabeth as she raised her head and felt her jaw contact the ground. It was enormous, in fact, it could easily fill 16 apartment buildings. Once more, it roared and slammed down on the Hellhound. When he appeared in front of Annabeth, Naruto embraced her and muttered, "Close your eyes, this is going to be bright." As Kirin struck and rocked the entire camp, in fact, the lake trembled a little. Annabeth closed her eyes and sank into Naruto's embrace. "All right, you can open your eyes now," Naruto remarked. Following his instructions, Annabeth and the others gasped as they saw a wall of glass and a black hole the size of a small home where the Hellhound had been. Annabeth turned to face Naruto, who was glancing at the location as if it were commonplace. When she looked up, she realized that the object floating above Naruto's head was a pink dove with a plant in its mouth. Everyone gasped when they saw this, with the exception of Naruto, who was perplexed by its meaning. He then heard Chiron remark, "Dear sweet Zeus, a child of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty and eternal youth who likes to fight and smells like a monster." Naruto was blinking and shouted, "What you talking sack of glue? I don't smell like a monster, it's the freaking Bijou and probably that psycho Madara you smell." Bijou as in the great 10 beasts said to each rival titan at full power, with the 10 supposedly being able to rival a primordial in power? Chiron said, blinking, oblivious to the insult. With a deadpan expression, Naruto responded, "No, I'm talking about the bijou made of plush and beans you can purchase online, for the centaur." "Naruto, this world of yours wouldn't happen to be the elemental nations, would it?" Chiron inquired upon hearing this. Sighing, Naruto replied, "That's it. That's my home, the place I was born, the place I grew up in, the world I was trained to be a warrior in, the place I was supposed to die in. But the stupid Shinigami decided to send me here. And so help me Kami, the next time I see that bastard of a death god, I'm gonna see if it's possible to kill the god of death." Then, without noting the startled eyes of those surrounding him or Chiron stuttering over having the hero in his camp, he began to complain in rage. After yawning and putting an end to his complaining, Naruto remarked, "I'm bored now, it's time for me to catch some sleep. See ya people later." Then, in a burst of crimson light, he teleported away. As he prepared to depart on his tour the following morning, Naruto was making his way to the border when he sensed Annabeth sprinting in his direction. He sighed as he turned around and saw her wearing an irritated expression. "Where are you going?" she questioned him as she approached him. In an attempt to crack a joke, Naruto stated, "I'm going out for a pack of cigarettes. You want anything from the store?" In a frown, Annabeth stated, "It's not funny. You can't leave the safety of the camp. A monster will kill you." Snorting, Naruto remarked, "You got it flipped. If and when a monster comes near me, I'm gonna be the one doing the killing." "What about Grover?" asked Annabeth, frowning even more. Naruto stated, "Goat Boy has a job protecting Idiot, and there's no way I'm helping him do that. You can't leave, the camp might fall under attack, and we'll need you," Annabeth shouted, stamping her right foot down. Naruto was scowling. "There's Hyrule markers all around the camp, so if I sense the camp in danger I can just teleport back here and kick some ass." "I can't stop you from leaving, can I?" sighed Annabeth. Grinning, Naruto said, "Nope." With her hair flipped back, Annabeth remarked, "Well, fine, but..." Then, to his amazement, she gave him a firm embrace and said, "Remain safe and write to me occasionally." While surreptitiously applying a Hyrule marker to her, Naruto gave her a giggle and returned the hug, saying, "Sure, Annabeth." Then, with a resolute sparkle in his eyes, he left her behind and walked across the border. As he crossed the border, he stated, "It's time to start my journey. First on the list is getting my swords back. I think I'll start with Nuwabari as I have no bloody idea where the Kraken is imprisoned." "So how are you going to get your sword back from Hera?" Kurama said. Naruto was beaming. "Easy. I'm going to slay every monster I come across, until I attract the attention of the gods. Once I have that, I'm going to demand she return my precious Nuwabari-chan to me." Jubi said, "Oh no, you're not, mister. When you meet the gods you are going to show them the proper respect." Naruto was snorting, "The hell I am. I'm Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, Demon the Hidden Leaf, Devil of the Allied Shinobi Forces and most boss shinobi to ever walk the face of the earth. If you don't show them the proper respect, I'm going to make your arms and legs heavy and make you run with limbs weighing 600 pounds, Jubi then added in a sweetly sweet tone. Naruto replied, "Yeah, you do that and I'm going to turn you into a rosebush and make Kurama take a dump on you." Jubi continued, "You do that and I'll find some way to turn you into a bunny and place you inside a wolf den." Naruto was told, "Do that and you'll be mating with Shikaku for the rest of my natural born life, or course after I kill all of the wolves." After that, Jubi declared, "You do that and I'll make sure you never have children." As Naruto opened his mouth to reply, he saw a whole pack of hellhounds foaming at the mouth. With his knuckles cracked, Naruto remarked, "Put a pin there as I have some dogs to punish." After that, he charged ahead and immediately began killing the hellhounds. After a day, Naruto was giggling while he defeated a Cyclops that had determined he was a nice target. More Cyclops were visible all around him, each one clutching a shattered face or a missing finger. The Cyclops exploded in a shower of gold dust as he punched it in the face while holding explosive chakra in his hand. He turned to another and melted it with a big glob of lava. Rushing to another, he froze it before shattering it into fragments. He used his wind chakra to cut the final two into small pieces. He went to his shirt and put it back on while laughing. He walked to his camp while yawning. Ignoring the several high-energy signals that followed him, he packed everything up and headed west. When he heard someone sobbing, he stopped dead in his tracks. He blinked when he entered a woodland and saw a young girl bawling her eyes and appearing to have been lost there for days. "What's wrong, little one?" he said, crouching down in front of her as he approached her. "Mommy won't stop bleeding and is getting cold." The girl, who was crying, stated, "Daddy heard Mommy and then bad men came and took him away." After hearing this, Naruto reasoned that her father must have gravely hurt her mother and that the police must have arrived to remove him. "Why are you out here in the forest?" he sighed. According to the young girl, "I was going to get Mommy some herbs like she did for me." Grinning, Naruto got to his feet and said, "Take me to your mommy, little one." I promise I'll heal her right up. As soon as she heard this, the young girl appeared and dragged Naruto to a little cabin in the forest. When Naruto saw a woman with pale complexion and blonde hair leaning against the cottage's wall with a knife pressed into her stomach, he shook his head. "Excuse me, can you hear me?" he said as he approached the woman. "Help me," was murmured by the woman. Shutting his eyes, Naruto forced chakra into them. He opened them once more, showcasing the Jubigan in all its splendor. He touched the woman, causing his hands to shine with green chakra, and began healing her. Her stomach was also healed when he removed the knife. Then he murmured, "Forbidden jutsu, time reversal," while turning his hands blue. As the woman's age began to reverse and the numerous wounds that were likely caused by her husband disappeared, Naruto yawned. Then he got up, turned around, and grinned at the young girl with the big eyes. "Your mommy is fine now. Just wait for her to wake up. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got to continue my journey," he said, giving the young girl a pat on the head. After then, he left without observing the woman crouching behind a tree or the stars in the young girl's eyes. "So you are the owner of Nuwabari-san. Most impressive what you did for that little girl and her mother," the woman added, turning around. Then, in a puff of peacock feathers, she was gone. Go over it again or let a chimp enter your mind. After 3 days, Naruto had killed almost 1,000 monsters, including the damn lion, whose fur he had draped around his shoulders, and he was beginning to lose his temper. His fiery eyes were blazing as he stared down a large boar. Without any interest, his cold sapphire eyes gazed at the crimson burning boars. Shikaku was yelling at Naruto to kill the foolish pig for having the audacity to confront the great and strong Naruto. Naturally, Naruto decided to ignore the bloodthirsty and extremely noisy tanuki. However, the boar had been staring at him for a long time, and the crazy raccoon was beginning to make his point, which was beginning to irritate him. The pig continued to stare at him for 5 more minutes before Naruto finally had enough and yelled, "Either get out of my way, pig, or become breakfast." The snorting boar scuffed one foot against the floor. When Naruto saw this, he groaned and remarked, "So be it." With the help of the still slumbering Jubi, he had managed to produce a black rod, which he pulled out and ran towards the boar, which charged back at him. "Amaterasu," he exclaimed as he leaped over the pig and stabbed it in the spine. Immediately, the rod and the boar caught fire, and the pig's flesh was consumed by black flames. Knowing that the boar was virtually dead, Naruto landed and began to leave. He stopped a mile away, scowled, and remarked, "It seems as though I finally have the attention of the gods. Sadly, it's just the moron Ares." He could feel the boar was still alive. He heard Madara scoff and remark, "God of war, my ass. If you were to ever face him in battle, you'd wipe the floor with him, even with you wearing about 20 resistance seals." He chuckled as he continued to walk forward. Naruto felt something approaching him just as he was ready to chuckle some more. He blinked when he turned his head and saw a large animal with a snake-like tail and the head of a lion or goat. When the creature roared viciously, Naruto remarked, "A chimera, eh? I hope it can handle me." Then, ignoring the extremely high power signature that was observing him from a distance, he pulled out another black rod and hurried in the direction of the beast. 5 minutes later, Naruto was spotted leaving the flaming chimera after shooting the wretched creature with a blaze release arrow, which not only caused it to gradually burn out but also caused it to suffer excruciating pain. When Naruto saw his Hiraishin tag go crazy on Annabeth, he halted walking by a tree. He activated his Sharingan, drew out 2 chakra rods, and threw a Hiraishin kunai into the tree. He came just in time to be seen Medusa's eyes before vanishing in a blaze of red. Snorting, Naruto remarked, "So this is the mighty Medusa. I don't see what's so scary about her." This boy smelt like a powerful monster, and Medusa wondered why he hadn't turned to stone. After noticing Annabeth covering her eyes, Naruto turned around and sighed, saying, "This is really stupid. Be gone eternally from this plane, where you are subjugated to the pain and intolerance of the gods." "Kamui," he cried, turning to Medusa and activating Madara's Manjikyu. Medusa's eyes widened as a dark gateway sucked her up. Knowing that the woman was now secure in his pocket realm, Naruto shook his head and sent a projection of Nibi and Jubi to assist the unfortunate woman. When he saw that Annabeth was still covering her face, he became extremely evil. He put both of his arms around the girl and began to mumble, "I knew my face was scary, but shielding your eyes from it is kinda taking things too far, don't you think, dear?" He also began to breathe on her ear. Shivering, Annabeth opened her eyes and gasped, realizing she was in a paradise with stunning waterfalls, flowers, and animals. She turned and flushed when she felt hands encircling her and saw Naruto's extremely attractive face with his longer canine teeth sparkling in the sunlight. "Annabeth, this is your personal paradise." "What a lovely place," Naruto remarked, kissing the side of her neck. Grover asked, "Annabeth, are you alright?" just as Annabeth opened her mouth to speak. With Naruto nowhere to be seen, the paradise disappeared and Annabeth was examined by a concerned Percy and Grover. She was intensely blushing and said, "I'm fine, come on, let's get moving again, we have to find the Master Bolt before a war is started." Then, unsure of what had transpired, she left. That evening, while seated in his camp, Naruto heard Kurama remark, "Damn Kit, that was a very good illusion. It seems I'm rubbing off on you after all." Naruto was chuckling. "No, I just thought it would be funny to see her personal paradise. Who knew that she would include me in such world?" Madara interrupted Kurama as she was going to remark, "Boy, there is someone here, and we both know you hate being spied on." Sensing the strong energy signature not far from his camp, Naruto turned on his Jubigan, scowled at the trees, and spoke the words, "Whoever you are, you have 5 seconds to reveal yourself before I let the flames of Amaterasu burn everything in my path." At first, nothing happened, but then Aphrodite in her Kushina form appeared as a woman emerged slowly from the bushes. For some reason, she was grinning the happiest. When Naruto saw her, he turned off his Jubigan and remarked, "Oh, it's you. I thought it was someone worth my time." Then, disregarding the frown that came on her face, he looked up at the stars. "Aren't you glad to see me?" she questioned as she made her way to the camp. Naruto snorted, "I'm not and wouldn't be even if we're holding Nuwabari-chan, my headband and Samahataheim." At this, Aphrodite frowned even more and inquired, "Why aren't you happy to see your mother?" Naruto sighed and replied, "Because my mother is dead. Her name was Uchiha Makoto, and she was killed when I was 6 by her eldest child, because her stupid clan was planning to overthrow the Hokage. Since then I have been alone and adrift." He looked at her with a deep scowl. "My hands are bathed in the blood of my enemies and allies alike. I killed my brother to rescue him from a pale snake, murdered my cousin because he was trying to take something away from me, massacred an entire village because the pale snake was hiding there. My only friends are Samahataheim and Nuwabari-chan. I am not a man, nor am I demigod. I am the devil of the allied shinobi forces, Jinchuriki of all 10-tailed beast, cursed son of Namake's Minato. I am the harbinger of Amaterasu, prophet of Tsukuyomi, adopted sibling of Susanoo, and beloved of chaos, order, and Koto Amatsukami. I am the demon of the lost world and wielder of the Jubigan. I am not your son, as I am not a loving person. Therefore, I don't care for you but," he added, closing his eyes. He then opened his eyes to reveal what the Jubigan said, "I will not tolerate your presence anywhere near me. I hate not only you but Zeus for his stupidity, Ares for his arrogance, Hercules for his arrogance, and many of the other gods for not claiming their children. I bear no ill will towards Hera, Athena, Persephone, Artemis, Hades, and Hermes. After all us thieves have to stick together, he remarked with a sly smile. When Aphrodite heard this, she replied, Is this because I left you in that world, or that I'm still with Ares? If it is, I'll stop, just don't hate me. Tears welled up in her eyes. Standing up, Naruto said hatred is a part of the human cycle. I am most likely going to hate you until the day I die. That is if I ever die, as Ju-chan has informed me that because of the 11 immortal beings I hold inside of me I am immortal. Oh well, guess I'll roam until I validate my existence and destroy all in my path. Then he stood up and screamed, Burn out! Amaterasu, while pointing his palm toward the jungle. Aphrodite's eyes widened as black flames sprang from his hands and began to devour the forest, causing numerous demons to scream as they were burned alive. Then, when she disappeared in a rush of leaves, he left her without ever looking back. 3 days later, Naruto sat atop the Lincoln Memorial, staring with blue eyes at the throngs of people passing by. He was currently attempting to decide how to handle the bloodthirsty people that were pursuing him. He considered killing them at first, but changed his mind because he didn't want to spill innocent blood if he didn't have to. Additionally, he was ignoring the foolish monster that surrounded him. He groaned and remarked, The Titan of Time sure is anxious to stop me for some reason, as I'm already pissed at one god of death. Hades wouldn't dare turn my anger on him. He was referring to the hellhounds who were snapping at his feet. After that, he jumped down and remarked, Oh well. Devour all in my path. Amaterasu, he exclaimed as he landed on one of the hounds. The flames ate them up like pizza at a teenage party, and the creatures had no chance. After dusting himself off, Naruto felt something approaching and prepared himself just in time to be struck by a hydra. With a scowl, Naruto rolled over and murmured, I'm going to make you pay for that. He then pushed a good amount of chakra into himself while closing his eyes. Susanoo, he exclaimed as he opened his eyes, which were now Madara's eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. A huge blue creature with a long katana in its left hand materialized as he stated this. With Naruto's movement, the demon warrior struck the hydra with the enormous blade, severing many of its heads. Knowing it wasn't over, Naruto leaped back a considerable distance and bided his time. As expected, the hydra's head count increased to 15. When Naruto saw this, he made the sword disappear and swapped it out with a bow that held a black flaming arrow. He returned fire and remarked, You will have to try harder, Kronos, as a weak hydra is nothing compared to the might of a rampaging Bijou. The arrow began to burn through the hydra's heart, causing it to scream in agony. Naruto blinked as he turned aside, sensing Annabeth's tug once more. With a sigh, he hurried to where she was in time to intercept an ugly bird's fireball. Echidna, I suggest you take your children and move along because I'm really not in the mood to deal with you right now, he remarked, smashing the fireball. Boy, you should be cringing in fear at me, not trying to boss me around, sneered the mother of all monsters. Snorting, Naruto murmured, I tried to warn you, but now you must suffer the punishment. When the mother of all monsters and her offspring were launched into the sky, everyone's eyes widened. Massive pieces of dirt began to float into the air, accompanied by some water and metal. Be forever trapped inside my new moon, Naruto muttered as he pushed it into the sky after it appeared to be another moon. Now that it was in space, everyone could see it soaring farther into the sky. Then, with his eyes closed, Naruto approached Annabeth, who was staring at him. He laughed as he added, You really need to learn to stay calm, babe. I can't have you summoning me for any reason. Then he opened his eyes and disappeared in a red flash, returning to where he had been before, missing Annabeth's cries for him. After passing the flaming hydra on his way back to the memorial, he remarked, It's about time for another god to make their presence known. He moaned as he entered the museum and exclaimed, Oh joy, I can't wait. Then, hearing a heavenly voice question, "Can't wait for what?" he stopped. He blinked when he turned his head and saw Hermes and Apollo, the sun god, standing there. As he relaxed, Naruto remarked, "So it's the sun god and my comrade." Then, grinning, he approached Hermes and shook hands with the god, who returned his smile. "What can I do for the two of you?" he inquired, shaking hands with Apollo as well. Apollo chuckled and said, "Nothing, we came to warn you that Ares is coming for you." Apparently Aphrodite kicked him to curb and decided she wanted true love. Also, Zeus is not happy with what you did to his pets. Snorting, Naruto remarked, "Ares had better stay away from me if he doesn't want to meet the true face of war, and as for old lightning bud, he can go kick rocks for all I care." Apollo was shouting with delight as Hermes chuckled at this. As he left the museum, Naruto didn't even notice the two gods disappearing in a rush of wind. He stated, "Okay, it's time to start training with my Jubi form," as he made his way to an empty space in the forest and removed his shirt. He heard Madara say, "No, it's time to finish your training in controlling the perfect form Susanoo," just as he was about to begin injecting him with demonic chakra. With his perspiration running down his face, Naruto could only wonder what he had gotten into. A day or so later, Naruto was sitting on a beach with his hair, for once, lying flat. The odd thing was that there were 10 wolf tails flowing languidly behind him, and there were numerous little lizards perched on his shoulders or lying around him. Sitting on the edge of this shore, Naruto contemplated whether to switch from Jubi mode to Sage mode and begin training, or whether to go fishing because he was feeling a little peckish. With a yawn, he looked out to sea and licked his lips, feeling the life power of the various aquatic creatures. He got to his feet and remarked, "I guess I just found my answer. It's lunchtime." Then he turned his tails into spears and threw them into the sea. As they plunged into the ocean in quest of anything for Naruto to eat, the tails resembled rockets. "Dio, I will be training in Sage mode later. Announce this to the elder dragons. Right now I am hungry and fish is on the menu," he stated, glancing down at one of the lizards. With a nod, the lizard on his shoulder disappeared along with the other lizards in a puff of smoke. Then, sensing pressure on his tails, Naruto grinned and dragged them out of the sea. When he noticed the numerous dead fish on his tails, he grinned. The fish began to fry gradually as he pushed fire chakra into his tails. "I got time to kill while these cook. Let's see how my voice affects the monsters around me," he muttered, closing his eyes and settling back into his chair. Then he called forth a guitar and began strumming it while getting it tuned. He grinned after he had done tuning it and remarked, "Here we go." He ate some of the fish and listened to the ghosts swooning for him. His song must have moved them. As he ate his delicious fish, he grinned carelessly. He then turned to face the sky and chuckled when he saw Apollo giving him the thumbs up, seemingly in approval of his small figure. After a few days, Naruto was heading in the direction of where he thought he saw Grover, Annabeth, and the idiot. He pushed open the restaurant door and squinted to see the 3 people seated across from Ares. When he saw this, he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Leaning on the seat Ares was occupying, he walked past the waitress. God said, snarling as he saw Naruto. "What are you doing here, you little shit?" he asked, getting to his feet. Smirking, Naruto stated, "I sensed my babe was in trouble and like the badass I am came to take care of it." He continued, "Imagine my surprise finding the wannabe god of war sitting across from my babe," as he let his eyes change into their Jubigan appearance. "Who you calling a wannabe?" Ares said, his features displaying a furious grimace. "The little bitch in front of me, that's who," Naruto smirked. When Ares heard this, he trembled with anger. "Are you mad, bro?" asked Naruto, chuckling. "Give me what I asked for, and I'll give you 3 rides," Ares stated, turning to face Percy. Then he bounded from the dinner. After he sat down where he had been, Naruto laughed and remarked, "I love taunting people." After that, he turned to face the waitress and asked, "Yo lady, bring a guy some grub will you?" With a flush, the waitress replied, "Sure sir." "So what did the wannabe ask you to get?" Naruto questioned Annabeth, laughing. "You should stop taunting him like that, Naruto, he could kill you," said Annabeth, glaring angrily. When Naruto heard this, he snorted and burst out laughing. "Greater beings have tried and failed to kill me, babe. Hell, one of them resides inside of me," he replied, putting an end to his chuckling. Then, with a serious expression, he remarked, "Besides, only those who fear him respect him." He blinked when the blushing waitress placed a large dish of food in front of him and remarked, "Cook says it's on the house." With a brilliant smile, Naruto added, "Tell them I said thanks." He saw Percy attempting to bring Grover and Annabeth along with him as he was ready to start eating. "He's a bloody idiot and his foolishness is going to get either Annabeth or Grover hurt one day," Naruto remarked, shaking his head. "Can I get this an Edago plate?" he asked the waitress, sighing. She nodded, her cheeks still flushed, and replied, "Sure." As he continued to travel along the highway, Naruto pondered whether or not he should be concerned about the creatures pursuing him. After giving it some thought, he concluded they weren't worth his attention. Ares had sent Annabeth and the others to the water park, where he arrived and rolled his eyes, saying, "This smells like a prank." He jumped the fence all at once, entered, and saw Annabeth an idiot on the verge of collapsing to the ground. He threw one kunai and seized Annabeth before Percy could, rolling his eyes. "Seriously babe, this entire thing smelled prankin' you." The idiot and goat boy walked right into it, Naruto remarked, glancing down at the wide-eyed Annabeth. He stepped over the water and onto the ground after settling down on it. "Yo, are the monsters still following me like love-sick puppies?" he questioned, putting the blushing Annabeth down and turning to Grover. Grover's eyes widened as he sniffed the air and nodded. Smirking, Naruto replied, "Good, let me show whatever fool that set this prank up. What happens when you threaten my babe?" When the monsters poured in, Naruto, who had opened the gate, grinned. "Behold babe, the majesty of the Susanoo," he grinned as he felt Annabeth approach from behind. When a massive skeletal form that rapidly acquired flesh and bone materialized, Percy and Grover's eyes widened. The creature appeared to be a demon from your worst nightmare. The fact that it was carrying a bow and arrow frightened the beasts. The arrow was drawn back, and Naruto remarked, "Idiot, Grover, I'd seek shelter if I were you." Grover dragged Percy along as he swiftly hid in a hut. When Naruto noticed this, he aimed the bow skyward and saw the arrow's tip ignite. The night was as dark as the flames. Pierce the heavens. Blaze style, Dance of the Dead. Naruto said as he turned to face the camera. When it began to pour black fire, burning the demons alive, Annabeth's eyes widened as the arrow was launched into the air. Following the death of every monster, Naruto remarked, "That is what happens. Ares, you tricked my babe into something like this again and I'll be taking over the mantle of God of War." He then allowed his Susanoo to fade away. Or maybe God of Destruction. He turned to face the astonished Annabeth and added, "I've always liked blowing shit up." He then turned to Percy and stated, "Head to Vegas and get Lightning as his giant toy, before I send a Bijudama to him to Olympus and take him the fuck out. By the way, if you don't know who I am, let me inform you," he continued, gesturing to the camera. With flames beginning to flicker, he declared, "I am the devil of the Allied shinobi forces." The sky then glowed as if Apollo were dragging the sun across the sky as he exploded into black flames. With his 10 tails out, Naruto declared, "I am the new Jubi." The ground he was on was now beginning to burn from the flames' growing intensity. He called forth a black chakra rod, threw it into the lake, and laughed as the water began to vaporize. After that, he declared, I am the cursed son of Namake's Minato. Then, expressing his desire to kill, he transformed into Kurama using his chakra and declared, I am the Jinchuriki of all 10-tailed beast and the insane Uchiha Madara. The howling beast began to take the shape of the flames that were beginning to burn the place down. Naruto chuckled and stated, I am the demon son of Uchiha Makoto, the hungry brother of Uchiha Sasuke, the lonely killer of Uchiha Itachi. The flames were still glowing fiercely, but he was beginning to fade. He laughed and stated, I am the hatred of every single child ever left alone by his or her godly parent. Naruto was largely gone, and the majority of the theme park had been destroyed by the fires. I am destruction incarnate. I am Uzumaki Naruto, he whispered, his eyes whirling. Naruto's fiery spinning eyes were all that were left of him after the location detonated. The sight of their eyes chilled nearly every god. Zeus remarked, his face displaying wrath, Hercules, go take that little shit down. When Aphrodite heard this, her eyes widened. With a shake of his head, Apollo answered, Dad, I wouldn't do that. Why not? Zeus asked, turning to face him. Apollo replied, because Hercules is going to die if he fights Naruto. Naruto is practically a god already. At this, Hera remarked, Hercules should face this demigod. With Naruto's bandana around her neck, Artemis spoke the words, yes he should. Thus, Zeus declared, it's been decided then. Hercules will kill the little bastard. Smirking, Hercules walked forward and declared, it will be my honor. Then he was gone. That little shit will regret the day he called me a wannabe god, Ares remarked with a sly smile. For Naruto, Aphrodite was really concerned. Hera was going to keep a careful eye on the combat. In order to determine whether Naruto was indeed the hero he was meant to be, Artemis intended to watch it with her hunters. I wonder how the pricks are going to respond, muttered Naruto, perched on a dead Cyclops. Then, turning his head to the left, he blinked and saw Hercules holding out his hand. Of course Lighting Ass would send jerkules after me, smiling, Naruto said. With a scowl, Hercules remarked, you need to be taught manners. You need to stop riding your daddy's dick, Naruto remarked, snorting and jumping down. At this, Hercules growled and charged at Naruto. Seeing this coming, Naruto ducked to the left and spoke the words, too slow. Naruto punched Hercules in the stomach, causing him to stoop. He got back up and attempted to strike Naruto once again. Hercules was booted in the chin by Naruto as he ducked under the strike. Hercules pounded the ground with a snarl. Naruto stamped on the ground and physically broke the earth wide after witnessing the cracks that were coming his way. Naruto hopped above Hercules' careless charge and kicked him in the back of the head as he charged at him, preventing himself from collapsing to the ground. With a roar, Hercules threw his shield at Naruto. When Naruto grabbed the shield, whirled around, and threw it back at him with more force, his eyes grew wild. Hercules snarled as he crashed into a tree. When Naruto materialized in front of him and began beating him as if he had stolen something, his eyes widened. Smiling, he grabbed Naruto's fist, believing he had the advantage. Boom! Exclaimed Naruto, rolling his eyes. And then there was an explosion that threw Hercules hurtling backwards. Naruto was washing his fingernails when he appeared next to a tree. He exclaimed, "Is this all you got?" as he observed Hercules struggle to stand. Hercules roared and ran toward Naruto, who began to clean his nails and avoid all of his blows. Naruto was aware that this was making Hercules angry. "Aren't you supposed to be some kind of god?" said Naruto, bending back. Screaming, Hercules exclaimed, "I am a god." Hercules was booted in the stomach by Naruto upon hearing this, saying, "No, you're just a spoiled little brat that needs a reality check. Lucky for you, dumbass." "I got just what you need," Naruto remarked, pausing his nail polishing. Then he smashed Hercules with a punch, sending him flying backwards. He kicked the deity into the air while flashing in front of Hercules. Hercules was hit in the arm by Naruto, who appeared above him. Hercules spun as a result. Using one of his black rods, Naruto stabbed Hercules in the hand. He then slammed Hercules into the ground after fastening a chain to the end of the rod. Hercules screamed in agony as he hurled a lightning bolt down the chain. Hercules was thrown into the air once more by Naruto's lashing of the chain. More chains were called forth by Naruto, and they pierced Hercules all over. As he ascended one of the bigger chains, Naruto turned to face Hercules and remarked, "Don't worry, jerk, it's almost over." "Blaze release, the devil's brand," exclaimed Naruto as he leaped into the air. Then black flames erupted from the chains. Hercules began to burn as he screamed so loudly that heaven could hear him. Waiting for the right time, Naruto watched Hercules burn. Hercules looked him in the eyes and pleaded for his release at this precise moment. "Not happening." "By the way, Tsukuyami," snorted Naruto. For around 5 minutes, Hercules' cries ceased, and the fire extinguished. Then Hercules let out an even louder scream, as the god's golden blood began to pour from his nose, eyes, and ears. "For a supposed god, you are very weak." "Don't worry, I'm sure Daddy can fix that also," Naruto remarked, turning around and closing his eyes. As he turned to go, Naruto remarked, "Oh, what a wonderful life." Then he disappeared, leaving a chained, unconscious Hercules in the wilderness. The gods who witnessed this were astonished. Hera pretended to be outraged, but she was actually rather pleased that Hercules had just been handed his ass. Apollo was resisting the impulse to chuckle when he noticed that Hercules appeared to be someone's puppet. Dionysus was eager to share what he had recently witnessed with the camp. Hermes was following Apollo's lead. Artemis and her hunters were looking with astonished eyes at what had just happened to Hercules. The astonishment and wonder in her eyes were visible when she turned to face her second in charge. Looking at his brother, who appeared to have just been destroyed, dangling in chains in midair, Ares was literally foaming at the mouth. Poseidon pondered whether or not he ought to be concerned about his son. Demeter wanted to know if Naruto consumed oats. As Hestia tended to the fire, she tried not to swoon over Naruto's unadulterated power. Zeus was intending to send someone on a mission to save Hercules, just like Ares had done. The way Hercules' ass was kicked made Hades in the underworld laugh so hard that he started crying. Wanting a piece of Naruto, Persephone was licking her lips. While spending the night at his camp, Naruto pondered whether he had been too forgiving to Hercules. According to Kurama, if that was easy, then I don't want to know what going hard on him looks like. He blinked. According to Jubi, who rolled her eyes, don't encourage him, Kurama. That was showing off Naruto-chan. Before Naruto could say anything more, he rolled his eyes and muttered, "That was fucking awesome. You made that stupid motherfucker your bitch." Shikaku made Naruto laugh. Then, sensing a presence in his camp, he blinked. He blinked and sat up, discovering a pretty woman wearing a totally black outfit that fit her well. She interrupted him as he was about to get up, saying, "No, please stay seated." "Who are you?" said Naruto, blinking. With a smile, she declared, "I am Nyx Primordial of the Night. What can I do for you?" Naruto inquired, blinking as he heard this. "Is there somewhere a little less open?" Nyx inquired, laughing. Nick stared as a wooden mansion grew from the earth after Naruto twice knocked on the ground while blinking. After rising, Naruto ushered her into his mansion. "Again, what can I do for you?" he inquired, seated comfortably in a chair. Naruto's eyes widened when Nyx grinned and discarded her dress as she entered the mansion. With a smile, she approached him and said, "You can make sweet love with me." While Naruto's dick was standing to full attention, his brain was attempting to restart. Both male and female-tailed beasts were gaping like fish inside of him. "Tap that now," remarked Madara, a typically haughty individual. When Naruto's mind was stimulated by this, he exclaimed, "It would be my honor." The sound of clothes tearing could be heard as Nyx, grinning, leaped on Naruto. The following morning, Nyx was on top of Naruto, who was sprawled out in the center of his bed. Nyx was still on top of Naruto when his eyes snapped open and he blinked. She must have been awakened by his movement because she opened her eyes and looked into his stunning blue eyes. Greeting him with a smile, she murmured, "Good morning. Shouldn't you be gone since you're the primordial of the night?" Naruto said, glancing at her. "I can leave any time I want, and right now I don't want to leave," she replied, laughing. "Any particular reason?" said Naruto upon hearing this. Nyx groaned as she shifted her lower body with her nod. "Because for the first time in so long I feel loved and full," she remarked with a laugh. "So you're staying because I made you feel good?" questioned Naruto, blinking at this observation. She gave him a kiss while grinning and remarked, "That and I think I might be falling for you." "How when we just met yesterday," said Naruto upon hearing this assertion. She grinned and replied, "No, you met a construct of mine back in the elemental nations. I believe she was named Kurenai." When Naruto heard this, he said, "You're Kurenaihime, with white eyes." With a laugh, Nyx remarked, "Yes, she was a construct of me." With a glance, Naruto questioned, "What happened to her?" Nyx was beaming. "She lived a long life and raised Asuma Jr. Of course she was lonely as both people she loved had died in battle. First Asuma-sensei, then the Shinigami goes and sends me here," Naruto moaned upon hearing this. She nodded and added, "Yes, but once she died she rejoined me and I had to sort through the memories and feelings. I threw a lot of it away, but you and all of her memories and experiences with you I kept," she replied, grinning at him. "Why?" said Naruto upon hearing this. She was beaming with pride and said, "Because you made her the happiest, even when she was with Asuma. You even comforted her when she learned of his death and got revenge for her. You helped her raise Asuma's kid, and showered her with love and affection. You even took down pain because of him trying to crush her with a building." With a flush, Naruto murmured, "Well, shucks." According to Nyx, who was laughing, "Plus we both thought that your blush was so cute." Hearing this, Naruto grinned. "I know that you're going to have a harem, Naruto-kun, and I want to be part of it," Nyx remarked, resting her head on his chest. After nodding in response, Naruto questioned, "What should I call you then?" Saying with a smile, "Call me Naichan." With a smile, Naruto responded, "Okay, Naichan." "You ready for round 12? Nyx grinned. With a giggle, Naruto remarked, "I think you're confused, my dear, this is round 13. With a laugh, Nyx remarked, "It doesn't really matter which round it is." As he made her groan, Naruto buckled his hips and replied, "Nope, because by the end of it you'll be screaming my name so loud the heavens can hear it anyway."